Hello and welcome to FDT-TV. I'm Mike and I'm joined by the very lovely Ian Barker. Sincere apologies, this is take two because some muppet who's supposed to be recording this episode forgot to press the epoxy record button. So we'd been speaking for about half an hour before I'd actually realised what had happened. So just to recap what we've just been over, unfortunately Pele's passed away. Sincerest condolences to his family and his friends. What a legend of the club. Ronaldo
named the Pele Stadium.
Yeah. Ronaldo's joined a Middle Eastern club on a guarantee or on £200 million a year. Some say 4, some say 7, who knows, some about an ambassador, and the transfer window's open. We haven't been linked with, we've been linked with a few players, but they've so welcome, happy Christmas and a happy New Year to you. That's just a quick recap. If you've got any comments or anything, please leave them. Sorry.
Any comments, questions, leave them in the comments section. We'll be inevitably, we won't answer them because the first time round. But what I will say, Wigan are not being renamed the Pele Stadium. That was something Mike brought up, and I nominated Wigan to be called Pele Stadium. I don't know why.
I think it's a good shout though, because I've heard he was a massive fan of Wigan Athletic.
Yeah, well, it was he had a holiday shed in Wigan. I heard. So.
Oh God! That was a whistle-stop tour of 1 minute and 44 seconds of what we've just been discussing for the last 45 minutes.
And if you like this information-packed podcast, make sure you press subscribe. Because you should. It happens probably every third month, once a quarter at least. So
yeah,
definitely.
To be honest, mate, I think we, but maybe one of the things that we're struggling with is that some people may be put off by the length of our podcast. Now that they're seeing this one's going to only be about 10 minutes or so, they might actually be interested.
There's no bullshit in this one. It's just fact. Over and over again. Fact. Yeah, Ronaldo, something to do with the World Cup. Pele died. I think between us we've covered everything. David Moyes should have been sacked, but hasn't.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to get in touch with Piers Morgan. He come up previously as well. So, okay, no. But I think I moved on to Liverpool. Have just been absolutely hammered by Brentford, 3-1.
Yes.
Brentford scored 5 goals. VAR, as I've said, is a conspiracy. And has been bought off by the big clubs. They ruled out 2 of the goals and looked for a reason to rule out all of them. So there you go, confirmed.
Hashtag Illuminati.
Yeah.
No, actually, I'm glad you brought that up because that's one of the things that I did want to mention. What has happened to Liverpool?
They got rid of Mane, mate. I covered this for about 6 months.
No, I know they did get rid of Mane, but surely one man can't be that influential on a team. Considering for the last 3 years they've won the league and taken Man City to 1 point in the last 2 out of the last 3 years. What I don't understand how you can go from being that good to Liverpool of 2010.
Right. So what I would say is there's a few reasons why. One of them is Mane and the fact that he went such a selfless player and composed in the final third, I would say. You have to remember, like, this is a guy who has got the fastest Premier League hat-trick ever. Firmino isn't playing as much. So that's a big loss. People say, Salah's the best. No, Salah's good when the other 2 are playing. They're not playing. Tonight, didn't see him on the pitch. Like, I think he had 1 shot. Trent Alexander-Arnold has gone for the Dele Alli haircut, which has meant that he's now complete shit. Attacking-wise, he was brilliant, right? And I think he still is. Defensive-wise, as a right-back, he's awful. He shouldn't be in the squad as a right-back. if he's a wing back in a free with only attacking responsibilities, that's fine. But he's not. Van Dijk is being found out by actually not being the best defensive player ever. He had a few really good seasons, but you can only rely on that for so long, like a good patch of form. He got injured, so you're not going to expect him to be the same player. They relied on him being a one-man defence. The fact that Alisson actually isn't that good, again, was a form player, a confidence player. When the whole team was in form and they had 80% possession a game, he looked really good because he saved one a game and got lots of clean sheets. Now they're facing lots of shots, he's conceding lots. Like it's a mix of things. I think the assistant manager left a year and a half ago, didn't he? He had another falling out with Klopp. And when I said that, then he ran all the training. He did everything. Klopp was the face. He was the brains. Klopp was sort of the man manager to keep everyone happy. That's happened. And I think there's a number of players who are probably looking at it going, asthma. Do you know what I mean? And the fact they spent a ridiculous amount of money on Darwin Núñez.
Yeah. I've got to say, from as a player, I mean, I know there was a lot of kind of speculation and stuff when he was first coming over, and it was a ridiculous amount of money. It's kind of like a Pepe level performance for a Pepe level fee. He's some of the early training videos, and I get that he's young and he's having to adapt to a new league or something, but for someone who was okay, well, I think you said he was playing in Portugal or something, wasn't he?
Played for Benfica.
Yeah. So, but his numbers, from what I've seen, his numbers were okay, but they weren't prolific. And then obviously Liverpool come in and said, "We'll pay you 70 odd million or whatever it was for him," and they're like, "Okay." But he's been awful. Absolutely awful. And I know there's a lot of pressure on for someone when you come with a price tag as big as what he's done. Again, we've seen it with multiple players previously. Your Harry Maguires, as I said, your Pepe's. When you move for that sort of money, you want a kind of a Son level performance, like Son from a couple of years ago, a Harry Kane level performance, and all this sort of stuff. But for me, he's looking like Andy Carroll, not obviously in physical, like his physical look, physical appearance, but in terms of his playing, he's looking like West Ham Andy Carroll.
I don't know. I think West Ham Andy Carroll was better than Liverpool Andy Carroll.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I'll give you that.
When we covered this when he first got bought, and I said about the transfer fee and the manager and the chairman both laughing about it. How much have we got? They were prepared to take like 30 million. They got 80 million. And they said, well, we've got better players in our reserve team. So statistically, in Portugal, Darwin Núñez was an absolute monster of a player, sort of Haaland level of scoring goals. What to think about is it's really a 2-3 team league. So the best players look a lot better than what they should in comparison to sort of the League One level players that are playing against. And he was at the front of a really dominant Benfica team, having tapping goals. Now he has showed moments of brilliance where with his pace and his ability to make these runs. What is coming into question is his finishing. And some of that I don't think necessarily is his fault. I think that's the sort of anxiousness to want to deliver, which will obviously that Cole Jenkinson trying too hard to impress means a bad performance. That's a really obscure reference there, but so with that side of things, and then the fact that actually the rest of the team isn't on form. So if Trent and Robertson and even if you had Mane and Salah, and with Darwin Núñez at the top, the amount of balls that would come in is going to lap up.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The fact that as I said at the beginning of the season, all right, they've got a few injuries, but Salah wants to score the goals. He doesn't want to pass. Núñez wants to score the goals. He doesn't want to pass. Diaz wants to score the goals. He doesn't want to pass. It's that thing of being the main man.
Yeah.
Some competition is a good thing, but not when everyone's out of form. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
I think he will score one or two, but I think he will end up being moved on. I mean, he didn't perform at the World Cup for Uruguay, really, did he?
No.
He played, and the geezer who would the chairman and the manager were referring to in I want to say Gonzalo. It's not. It's Gon something. What's his name? Gon something Ramos, who plays for Portugal, was actually phenomenal, and he's being linked with moves now to big clubs around Europe, which is a player that Liverpool should have got. Do you know what I mean? That tricky little in the box, in the box striker to do that. The other thing that I think is working against him a little bit is the previous Uruguayan striker that they had did really, really well.
Yep.
Don't know if you remember him. Geezer called Luis Suarez.
Yes.
Like to take a bite out every now and again. But they're big shoes to fill, especially when that's the expectation that you're going to be the same. Do you know what I mean? He's still a young guy, so he's got a lot of maturing to do in terms of his game and his footballing brain. But you don't get the opportunity to be at the big club for 6 years to develop. Do you know what I mean? You've got to come in and hit the ground running. So I do feel a little bit for him, because I do think there's something there. He's racked up the fastest sprint speed of the Premier League this year. But I think he needs to find his shooting boots, a bit more composure in that final moments.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on there. Obviously, there's massive pressure. Obviously, because there's been, as I mentioned at the start of this bit, there's been a lot of his training videos and stuff coming up on social media and stuff about him missing these opportunities. But not only that, but you're seeing that in games as well. I think Peter Crouch. I was listening to a podcast a couple of years ago with Peter Crouch, and he said that there was massive pressure on him from when he joined Arsenal. Joined Arsenal? No, when he joined Liverpool, for him to score. Now, I think he was quite fortunate that he managed to get in with the in-crowd, so i.e. your Steven Gerrards and your Jamie Carragher's and all that sort of stuff. So, and there was almost kind of like them wanting to do well. But apparently, from what Peter Crouch said, is that if you turned up to training and you weren't giving it your all or whatever, because you have these quite influential heads within the team, they'd either give you a kick up the arse physically, or they'd be in the manager's ear saying, "What the fuck are you doing with this guy? He's shit."
Yeah.
So yeah, I wonder if there is that kind of.
I think listening to Roy Keane speak a lot, that side of the captaincy and football players behind closed doors, because they all got social media and these agents that interfere in everything, and the amount of sort of cancel culture that we see in the world now, I think that side of football is disappearing. There's probably a few anomalies to that rule, but I don't think you get that intensity to hold people to a high level of standard constantly from the captains. I don't think that necessarily is happening as much as it used to.
No, it's because it's all coming from fans and stuff nowadays, but potentially. Obviously, everyone's, as you mentioned, has got social media and all this sort of stuff. Everyone's got an opinion. To be honest, I think this is just obviously my personal opinion, and these opinions do not reflect the wider audience and blah blah blah. But I think footballers should not be on any sort of social media, because I think it's far too easy for knobhead number one, let's just say for argument's sake, they have a bad game and then they send them some absolute disgusting message about wanting to do horrific things to their family or death threats and all this sort of stuff. I think it's absolutely disgusting. I think from an Arsenal side of things, we see it not too long ago with Bukayo Saka missing in the European Championship finals, and the amount of tweets and stuff like that went out directly to him, and then them having this absolute fucking cop out of an excuse. Oh, my mate was on my phone. All right, well, lynch your mate up then. Who was your mate that sent the message? I think it's absolutely disgusting, and that's why I don't think people, well, professional footballers should be on any type of social media, because it could have an impact on their mental health and all that sort of stuff. But at the same time, I think because of the minority, the quite substantial minority around the world, why should they have to limit what they want to do because of this?
I mean, I'm not being funny. If I was a professional footballer, and obviously where do you draw the line? If you was at top level, championship and above, I would say I would probably hire a social media person. Do you know what I mean? Or a team. If you're Ronaldo, there's no way he's putting out his tweets. Do you know what I mean? He must have a team around him that sort that and field all that. So you wouldn't necessarily see it. The ones that get me is where they go, oh yeah, I tweeted that. Yeah, so I'm really sorry that I tweeted that. Do you know what I mean? The answer should be no, that come out of my team and they've been sacked because that should have never come from my account. But yeah, I get your point of it's got to be hard to do that. But in equally, if they play well, lots of praise.
Yeah.
So it swings and roundabouts. You probably don't get as much praise as you do negative, but some of that goes with the territory, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't condone death threats and other threats and racism, but if someone's been really shit and not putting some effort, if I was to put online actually and added them in it, because they have the ability to take that off, that actually I don't feel like you've pulled your weight and you was really shit today. I think some people will probably look at it and go, no, the fans are right. I didn't put in enough effort. I'm really sorry. Let's go again. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. Well, let us know your thoughts in the comment section below, and if you haven't already, please hit the like and subscribe button. I know we started this podcast very abruptly. As I said, it's completely my fault for not pressing the record button. But if you have already subscribed, thank you very much. Welcome back. We regularly go through some predictions each week when it comes to the Premier League fixtures. Obviously, we've had a couple of weeks off now. But we did some predictions just before our Christmas break, looking at Arsenal versus West Ham, West Ham versus Brentford, and then Brighton versus Arsenal. So we'll start off with the Boxing Day game. I've got to be honest, this was a game I was a little bit apprehensive about, just because of the quite substantial break, and obviously something that you mentioned, we had a lot of momentum going into the World Cup break. But obviously, with 2 games now passed, I'm happy to report that momentum is still with us. Obviously, we had picked up an injury to Gabriel Jesus as well, which is something that, again, a lot of Arsenal fans had expressed their concerns about. But it was quite a good game, I've got to be honest. We went 1-0 down through a penalty against the run of play, I would say. And it kind of got your backs up a little bit towards the end of that first half. But coming out in second half, we were just a different level. And I think it was kind of like brushing off the World Cup rust. And we ended up winning that game 3-1, which again, I was quite happy with. So just looking at the predictions, Ian, you had 2-1 to Arsenal, and I went for 2-2 on this one. Again, I think I went for I'll being a bit apprehensive based on what you were saying. And to be honest, I think you were kind of spot on that he could have disrupted our momentum. But so it's 1 point to you and 0 points to me. We then had West Ham versus Brentford. Do you just want to give us a quick recap?
Yeah, so that just a quick flashback to recap of what you just said there. West Ham come out flying, really, didn't we? That's the best football we'd played in that first half, certainly first sort of half hour, 40 minutes of the whole season. Second half, we went back to our normal defensive lapse in concentration, and you demolished us. Much the same when we played Brentford, when they ran out 2-0 winners, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Ivan Toney obviously got injured in that game, but they dominated us from start to finish. I watched it, and the missus came in. I was watching it on the computer, and she's like, "You're right." I'm not really. We've had 6 weeks off, and we're playing the same shit. There's been no change in formation. There's been no change in what we want to do. I mean, the only part of the game that was good is Skamaka got the ball finally about 65 minutes in and lashed one from 30 yards out. David Raya made a really good save, and that was it. Do you know what I mean? We can't even play towards the players we've got up the top of the team. So the fact that we're playing them again in the FA Cup, I'm not really happy with, especially after the way they played tonight. But five losses on the trot. I don't know how the man's still in a job. I see a statistic the other day which really did cement my feelings that our Europa League run last year has propped him up. We had something like 130 points to play for in the Premier League. We won 11 games in the whole of last year in the Premier League. That's abysmal. 33 points from wins in a year. It's a hard time to be a West Ham fan. The fact that the board quite clearly are not interested in getting rid of him because they would have been proactive with it. I know previously I said I think that they may, if we lose to Leeds and Brentford, seven losses on the trot in all competitions, surely he's got to go. How'd you keep the job? The stadium was half empty before the game kicked off. It emptied by sort of 70 minutes. And it's just one of those things. It's like I can't understand what's going on. I'm trying to look at what the bloody attendance was, but I don't know. But yeah, I'm not confident that we're going to change anything. I'm not confident that actually he's going to save us, and I think we might end up getting relegated.
To be honest, I know things are looking a bit bleak at the moment, but I think you're right. Certainly within the next 2 to 3 games, I personally think he will go. And I'll be very surprised come the end of January if he's still there and you haven't picked up at least 2 or 3 wins. Or
it's one of there's no easy games. It is London Stadium. We have an average attendance of 61,000. There's 49,000 people there. That's a huge chunk not there, and the fact that 70 minutes emptied.
I would also say something about the rail strikes as well, so that may have had an impact.
It hasn't previously.
No, you're right.
When we've played, there has been some, but it's been down to like 56,000 or something. Yeah, I'm just not confident, and the fact he was standing on the sideline, Moyes was standing on the sidelines, just looking confused. You know, like when the camera at England, the end of Roy Hodgson's England tenure, where he just stand there looking a little bit dazed of, I don't really know what's going on. That's the look Moyes had on his face for 90 minutes. And it's like, that doesn't instill me with confidence. Kevin Nolan got booked because he was having to go at the full official. He was shouting at the players. And in some senses, you think, get rid of Moyes and give Nolan a job. All right, he's not managed a club of that size before, but he seems to be passionate about it. He's shouting the instructions. He sorts out the set pieces. What he did last season. He's not on that anymore. But the other big change, which I had time to think about over the World Cup going, is Stuart Pearce left.
Yep.
And I've read a few articles here and there, some speculation, some with quotes in from interviews, and it sounds a bit like Stuart Pearce was doing all the sort of the legwork, and Moyes was taking the credit for it. And he went, I don't need this. You're giving me no credit. I'm not getting paid what you are, yet you're reaping all the benefit. I'm off. Since then, we've been even worse than we were at the end of last season. Do you know what I mean? It's only gone downhill since he's left. There is no passion. The players don't want to play for Moyes. You can see that. They don't buy into his tactic. And at some point, you've got to go, thanks very much for your time, but enough's enough. You've got to go. You haven't changed anything. You haven't worked on anything. Nothing's better since the 6 weeks you had off. So what were you doing?
So who would you go as a replacement? Obviously, I know you just mentioned Kevin Nolan there, but is there anyone else that you would take a punt on?
Now, here's the thing, right? There's all sorts of speculations, and reading West Ham forums, people are like, no, we don't want Sean Dyche in. You know you're going to be defensively solid. You know you're going to be hard to beat. You know you'll be hard working. I would have said Thomas Frank, but he's the Brentford boss, but he's just signed a new deal. Pochettino is out of a job at the minute. Thomas Tuchel's out of a job. It's one of those you think we're big enough now with the stadium and the fact that we did buy some decent players and we're in Europe currently still that we could attract a manager. But they've got to hit the ground running, which is really hard to do in the Premier League. And it's one of those, I mean, go back to Big Sam, you ain't going to get relegated, are you? With the players that we've got, we're not going to get relegated. Or we shouldn't get relegated. And if we do, I think that puts Moyes down as no one should hire him again. We're the third highest spending club this year. We're 1 point above relegation. Have you brought in that many good players or seemingly good players and not done well? Yeah. I mean, the Brentford players or fans were singing Saeed Benrahma who wants to come home because that's where we're rooting from. You think Declan Rice will go in January, or not in January, in the summer. Bowen probably will then go in the summer. And then you're like, okay, yes, we've got some good players, but our two big names are now gone. What do we do now? Apart from take the shirt down off the wall. I mean,
spit on it and burn it.
No, it costs too much to do that.
All right, sell it and recoup some of it back.
Yeah, but it's one of those that is like you want to see your club do well, and I was a big proponent of Moyes coming back, and I have been throughout. But it's got to the point where he's taken us as far as he can take us.
I was exactly the same with Arsene Wenger, 100% exactly the same. You just knew that he'd kind of overstayed his welcome.
Yeah. Had he gone out at the end of last season and said, "Look, I've done my bit. I don't know what to do to take us to the next level. I've never done it." Then I think everyone would have gone, fair enough. Like you've been wide-eyed enough to be able to take a step back and analyze the team and yourself and your abilities to manage those players to make them better. Okay, we shouldn't be challenging for the title, but actually we shouldn't be getting knocked out of the Carabao Cup by Blackburn.
Yeah,
we shouldn't be sitting above relegation by a point going, we're going back down to the Championship now. We should be sort of the best of the rest fighting in that spot, but it's just not. It's not happening. So yeah, I don't know.
Okay. So the last game that we predicted was Brighton versus Arsenal. Now this is a game that I was extremely apprehensive about because I think I even said it. If you go back and check out our previous videos, you'll be able to hear my prediction and state that I think if we get a draw against you, I think we'll get a result against Brighton. However, I think if we beat you, then we'll lose against Brighton, because Brighton have been pretty good this year. Now, the score was 4-2 on this. You had 3-1. I had 2-1. Again, being a little bit conservative. But I think the scoreline flattered us a little bit because Brighton were unbelievable. I know they had periods when I think we were like 3-1 down. They were 3-1 down. And then they started clawing their way back into the game. They scored one, we scored another, and it was 4-1. They scored another, and luckily they then scored another, which was chalked off for offside. But I think had that goal stood, and I think the last 10-15 minutes could have been very interesting or very squeaky bum time. Certainly, because they certainly got the wind in their sails when they started scoring. Some stupid mistakes defensively for us. I think that's one of the things that I can say for the goals that we have conceded this year. They have been silly mistakes. I think we get a little bit too comfortable. Maybe we've just played our asses off. We're absolutely knackered. We try and change things up with some of the formations. And what I was saying about the transfer window in the podcast before before I realised it wasn't recording, is that we are possibly a few players short. So it would be good to see what we can do in terms of quality that we can bring in to try and kind of cancel out some of these errors. But I've got to say, from the performances that we've had this year, it's considering we've got one of the youngest squads within the Premier League. I think we've been absolutely phenomenal, and obviously I can say that sitting 7 points clear at the top of the league. A lot of people are obviously questioning how long could we keep this up. It's always been, or up until recently, it's been, the wheels are going to fall off. And I have no doubt that over the next couple of weeks that the wheels will come off at some point. We will lose to someone. I know we've got a tough run of fixtures coming up. We've got Newcastle tomorrow. We've got Spurs. We've got United. We've got City coming up in the next few games. And obviously an FA Cup game in there as well. So no doubt that we will drop points between now and the end of the season. My point is that all the teams around us are dropping points as well. Manchester City dropping points, silly points a couple of times this season already. Liverpool are dropping points. I know United are on a bit of an upward trend at the moment, but they are a team that do concede goals, have had a few terrible results this season already, which has kind of cost them. Spurs have been absolutely shocking. I know a lot of Spurs fans were coming out at the start of the window saying they had the best transfer window, but I've seen a lot of social media outlets where they're complaining about how poorly they're doing at the moment. Antonio Conte has come out and said, look, obviously I'm paraphrasing, I'm doing the best that I can do with what I have. If that means that 5th or 6th is where we finish, that is the best I can get out of them. It wasn't too long ago actually that Scott Parker, I think, got sacked for there or thereabouts saying exactly that. But anyway, I'll come back onto that very quickly. Your predictions, you had 3-1, I had 2-1, so the score was 4-2. So it's a point each. So it's 2 points each for the week. So Ian, you are now on 30 and I'm on 33. So we'll just quickly go over this week's predictions. Obviously, as I mentioned, we've got Newcastle tomorrow. I think it's going to be a really tough game for us, considering that the Newcastle drew. I would love to see us win, and I think that we may have an advantage playing at home with our fans getting right behind the team this year. There's definitely a unity around at the club. We haven't had any issues scoring goals over the last couple of weeks. Obviously, there was the worry with Jesus, but Martinelli, Saka, Nketiah, Odegaard, everyone's kind of chipping in with the goals this year. I think I am going to go for a 2-1 win to Arsenal on this one.
Yeah, it's going to be a difficult game, I think. Newcastle's 6-game winning run come to an end, didn't it? I think, unfortunately, January's going to be a tough month for Newcastle. I know my prediction was they'll be the team that mounts the biggest challenge because they've had the longest time off. But it seems to be that they're focusing a lot on transfer business, which means some of the players who maybe have been on the cusp of the squad or playing sort of squad player parts that are playing well are now probably thinking, I'm just going to be replaced. I'm going to be replaced, which will make you a little bit nervy, which is, I think, maybe where that problem came in against Leeds. But you did look vulnerable, didn't you, against Brighton? And I think Newcastle will play in a similar way of wanting to run at you and play quickly and play attacking. I'm going to go for a 2-2.
Okay.
In this one. I don't think the wheels will come off quite yet. But yeah, I understand what you mean. I think when that does happen, it's about how you recover in your next game rather than the actual loss. Because, all right, you did it once before, but it doesn't happen, does it? Going undefeated. The thing or the interesting statistic I did hear the other day was no one who's had this much of a lead at this point in the season has ever lost the champion or lost the Premiership. So if you bottle it now, then I think you have to take the title off of Tottenham for the first team to have a 7-point lead before the halfway mark and bottling it. I think, yeah, you sign Harry Kane next.
Yeah, I worryingly, I did see that statistic as well the other day. And like I said, I think any point advantage that we can get as it stands at the moment is only going to be a good thing for us. Because like I said, no doubt, we are going to slip up at some point. We've got to play City twice yet. We've got Spurs at Tottenham. I know they're having a bit of a torrid time at the moment. But you can guarantee that'll be the one game that they turn up and do us like they did last year. Who else? United as well. Like I said, they're on a bit of an upward form as it stands at the moment. And I can kind of see glimpses of Arteta's philosophies at United as well. Do you know what I mean? In very much that he's taking no bullshit from the players. If you're late or you're going to get disciplined and all this sort of stuff. But they are leaking goals. I know they didn't obviously in the last game it 1-0, but yeah, there's going to be points throughout the season. We've seen it's been a weird season, and I don't mean that because Arsenal are top, although it is weird because we are top. And top by 7 points. But the fact that some of the big hitters that we've seen over the last few years have taken a massive dip in form. So, yeah, it's been a bit of a crazy season, but I'm glad that we've got that buffer that we can afford to lose a couple or draw a couple. Do you know what I mean? So I'm happy with how things are. But sorry, Ian, next game is Leeds versus West Ham.
Leeds versus West Ham. Did I give you a prediction for a scoreline?
Yeah, 2-2.
2-2, I did, yeah. So Leeds, West Ham. We're away to Leeds. We're up at Ellen Road, which is historically a difficult place to play. Leeds have not been in the best of form recently, but they are grinding out some results. And we're not. So in that sense, I think the travelling fans will be on top of the players as soon as there's a mistake, which won't help. I'm going to go 2-0 to Leeds.
Oh, okay.
I'm not confident we'll get anything from this game. And I think, I think he's lost. I think he's lost the dressing room, not necessarily entirely, because some of the players will want to be presenting themselves as the best, regardless of who's in charge. But I think generally players don't want to play for him anymore. But yeah, 2-0 to Leeds.
I've gone slightly different on this one. I think you will get something from this game. I don't think it'll be a win, and I'll be surprised if it is a win. But I've gone for a 1-1 draw on this one. Would you take a draw? Would you be happy with a draw travelling away, or would you still say that that's fuel to the fire to get rid of Moyes?
It's one of those. I think if he gets a draw, it's an excuse for the ball to say, "Well, look, he might be turning it around because he's got a point." I don't think that would be enough, unless it's a case where we score like 4 goals and lots of them get disallowed through VAR or one reason or another. If it's like a real proper performance and people go, well, we did everything we could, but it just wasn't our night, then maybe I would take a point. But other than that, we've got to win it. You can't go, oh, we'll play for a point, which is what we've been doing all season, because that's why we're now 17th. So it is a difficult one, because I want us to do well, but I also don't, because I feel like it's time to move on, and unless we dip into that relegation zone, they're not going to change.
Okay. Well, the next couple of fixtures is the FA Cup, which is next weekend, I believe.
Yep.
Ian, you are away at Brentford. Obviously, you mentioned it very briefly earlier. Give us your thoughts on this one.
So Brentford beat us, I'd say convincingly. We did have spells in the game that we controlled possession, but we did nothing with it. But the way Brentford played against us and got the result, and the way that they just dismantled Liverpool without Ivan Toney, I'm not looking forward to it, especially if we lose to Leeds. Right, here's the thing: if we lose to Leeds, do they get rid of him? That's the question. And I think they won't get rid of him unless someone goes above us. So it depends on the other results in the Premier League. But I'm going to go on the basis that we lose and they sack Moyes, at which point new manager bounce. Do you know what I mean? So in that sense, I'm going to go for a slightly rotated Brentford side as well. So 2-1 to West Ham. That's my trail of thought at the minute. Actually, if he goes, will it change the mentality? Could lead to better things. Could not. But yeah, I'm going to go with we lose, they sack him, and we get a little bit of momentum.
Okay, obviously based on my previous prediction for the Leeds game, 1-1, I'm going to say that this is the one that's going to be the straw that breaks the camel's back, and I've gone for 3-1 to Brentford on this one.
That's what I was going to go with originally, but then because I think if we lose both of them games, he's got to go 7 on the bounce in all competitions. It's undefensible. Like, do you know what I mean? There is no reason that he can keep his job.
Yep.
But yeah, hopefully that the board see sense and go, right, let's already put something in. Yeah.
Okay, the last game that we've got to predict is Oxford United versus Arsenal. Like you have just said for Brentford, I think we are going to see a massively rotated squad for this. And to be honest, I wouldn't care now if we got knocked out of this competition. I know it is our competition in terms of we've won it the most amount of times, but sorry.
To be able to focus purely on the league and
that, and obviously we've got the Europa League as well. So the least amount of games that we can play, the better. And I would take hazard a bet that if it meant that we could guarantee a lot more of these players stay fit for the Premier League, every single Arsenal fan will say, no, fuck the FA Cup this year. 100%. So, but I'm still going to go with the fringe/youth players playing in this particular fixture. I'm going to go for a 3-1 Arsenal win.
Is it at Oxford?
Yes.
Okay. So on that basis, I'm going to go with it's going to be some of the potentially the biggest game that some of these Oxford players are ever going to play in, if not all of them. That place will be packed to the rafters and rocking. And I think you're right. It's going to be a second string team, players returning from injury and some youngsters. Have they got the cojones to deal with that sort of in-your-face attitude, even if you're losing? I think quality will see you through, but I'm going to go 4-2 to Arsenal.
Okay. Nice.
That's my thoughts. Usually these minnows, they do well. They might knock you out, but I think if you're drawing or behind, some of the bigger guns will come on at 60 minutes, and just the quality, you'll just bang bang, and they will fall apart.
Yeah, no. To be honest, mate, as I said, I wouldn't care less if we got knocked out of this competition. Obviously, I would like to see us go as far in every competition that we can, but I just don't think we've got the depth of squad to guarantee us. I know nothing's a guarantee in football, but I obviously want to give us the best fighting chance as possible. This will be the first league that we've had since 2003. So it's a long time coming. And I want to give us the best opportunity. So if we did get knocked out of this competition with a second string team, I wouldn't be disappointed in any way, shape or form. Obviously, it doesn't look good getting in the statistics, getting knocked out by a lower league team. But again, I think any other club in our position would do exactly the same thing. I may be wrong. We may go full strength and want to go as far in every competition as we want to go for the treble this year, but I'm happy to sacrifice this competition to ensure that we do well in the Premier League. But let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. Even for your teams, if it's not Arsenal, West Ham, tell us what you think your team is going to do in the FA Cup. If you're in the FA Cup, if you're not in the FA Cup, then don't bother. But Ian, have you got any other footballing news for this week?
Well, no, but I do have one question.
Go on.
We spoke earlier about Arsenal being linked with the Ukrainian geezer from Shakhtar Donetsk, Michuk, or whatever his name is.
Yep.
There's also been lots of rumours flying around that Man City want Saka.
Yes.
I'm concerned that because from what I've read, you've used the extension clause in Saka's contract to keep him for another year to give you more time to negotiate a big long-term contract.
Mm-hmm.
But are you concerned that potentially a big money deal for this new guy might mean that they're looking at we could lose Saka here?
I kind of answered this question just before the Christmas break, I think. Obviously, yes, I am worried that until such time that an Arsenal player puts a pen to the contract or pen to paper, yes, there's always a fear that you could lose that player. I mean, we had a similar scenario with Aubameyang, and obviously that worked out really well. But for the likes of Martinelli's another player that I think is going to be very valuable for us over the next couple of years. And even he's come out and openly said, look, this is my home. I'm really happy here. Have you got a pen, basically? So, yes, there's always a worry that you could have a Robin Van Persie, a Cesc Fabregas, a Barcelona coming in for your best players. 100%. Until such time that they put their pen to paper and sign the contract, there's always going to be that worry. I wouldn't surprise me if the contract negotiations are put on the back burner until the end of the season. to see how well we do, because obviously that then gives him more bargaining power to say, I scored X amount of goals for you this season. We won the league because of my contributions. I want this. If you don't give me this, I'm off. So it wouldn't surprise me. But I think with the philosophies and the mentality that Arteta is kind of instilling into the club is that if you do come in with that attitude, obviously I appreciate you're going to have negotiations between your contractors. Obviously you want the best for yourself. They're not just going to go, well, here it is, like it or lump it.
Yeah.
But I think there is going to be a degree of that to some extent to say, well, we think you are extremely valuable, and this is reflective in our offer. If you don't want to sign it, you're in a contract until 2024 or whatever it is currently. If you don't want to, then obviously the opportunity's there for you to go elsewhere if the right money comes in. So yeah, I think that with any of our players that we've got currently.
Okay. I just wanted to see your thoughts here, because from an outside perspective, to me, that's like this big money deal could happen if that happens, and I think it could be if he goes, this one comes in. If he doesn't go, we don't get him. That's what it looks like to me. But say, I'm not following it that close.
To be honest, you may even be right, and there may be a reason why the contracts haven't been signed. But again, it wouldn't surprise me if, for the level of maturity that we're seeing coming out for some of these players already at such a young age, it wouldn't surprise me if they're like, look, I don't want to know anything until the end of the season, then we can talk contract negotiations and all that sort of stuff. And you never know, something may have been already sorted out in the background, in which case all the speculation is all for nothing. It could have already signed like a pre-agreement with Manchester City, or could have already signed a new long-term deal with us. God only knows. But I hope he stays with us. Because he's been absolutely phenomenal. I know I gave him a bit of stick when he first broke onto the scene. I didn't think he was an Arsenal player, but one of the times I'm very happy to have been proved wrong, and I think that about a lot of the academy players. I think Nketiah has still got a point to prove. I know he's proving it currently, but he needs to do it on a more consistent basis. But he's another player. I wouldn't be surprised if in a couple of years he moves on because of lack of playing time. I hope not, because I think he's a fantastic backup. A little bit inconsistent at times, but then you could say that about Jesus, because he's not scored in 9-10 games or whatever it was. So yeah. But
fair enough.
Anything else?
That's it from me.
Cool. Well, thank you very much. To be honest, I'm actually kind of glad that we missed out the first part of our recording, because we've managed to go for 55 minutes, even with that intro. So we do thank you very much for supporting the channel. Like I said, if you haven't already done so, please hit that like and subscribe button, and we will see you next week.
Take care.